and gentlemen, my name is Dr. John Belkowitz, and it's Math Monday! Bow, bow, bow. I don't do that very well. Can you do it? One more time. So we're doing Math Monday today, and Haley's going to be creating some of these how do you call it? Stop motion drawings for you to show you what the development length is, what we mean by it, and I'll go over an audio file which will voiceover. That's why they call me doctor. And we'll explain the development length equation and the concepts and everything that go behind it. It's really interesting stuff that focuses on the interface between the reinforcing bars and a reinforced concrete geometry or beam or structure. Now, the reason why this is so important is because a lot of the other videos that we've talked about, specifically cold weather concrete, we talked about torching the rebar to create it hotter so you have a heat source within the concrete as the concrete cools during excessively cold ambient conditions. Now, that being said, if you do something like making your reinforcing bars too hot, you could jeopardize that development length. And development length, if you will, I would like to define for you from the Reinforced Concrete book by Edward G. Nowey. One of the best books, and I believe we're going to page 413, randomly picking this out of my head, and oh, there it is. So, it can be concluded that the development length, L sub d, as a function of the size and yield strength of the reinforcement, determines the resistance of the bars to slipping, and hence, that was a loud yell, sorry about that, the magnitude of the beam's failure capacity. So basically, we have these reinforcing steel bars that go into normally the bottom section of our single reinforced beam to take on the flexural or tensile load that the beam gets as it smiles when it responds to a moment. We want as the beam responds to a moment. So we put our steel in this bottom portion because that's where our members are going through tensile, and that's where the steel has to come into play. What we need to make sure of is that the concrete is actually grabbing onto the steel, especially if you're transitioning from one length of steel to the next length of steel. So we use these equations to determine if we have enough steel embedded in our concrete for the concrete to grab off of, and if we don't, then the reinforcing bar could just yank out of our concrete or pull out of our concrete, and then we lose the entire purpose of it to begin with. Now, back in the day, we used to have these reinforcing bars that had no irregular surface. It was a smooth, square bar. And oftentimes what we saw was this reinforcing bar pull out of the concrete. Now, because we're using these new types of geometries, when I say new types of geometries, I think they were originally introduced in the 50s and the 60s, or maybe a little bit after that. But we don't need as long of a development length because we're putting it in irregular shape into the concrete. The concrete already wants to grab onto and not a smooth bar. If we're putting a smooth bar in there with no irregular shape, we're going to have a much longer development length to ensure that the concrete is grabbing onto that steel bar. So, excited to get into this. Let us know if you have any questions. Ooh, wait, not yet. Check this out. So thanks for joining us today. Hopefully you learned something. If you have any questions, any concrete concerns, don't forget to let us know. Remember, we're here for you, operating on days like Thanksgiving to make sure we're getting this education out, consensus-based education, to a larger industry to make everybody make better decisions so we have concrete that is stronger, lasts longer, and we're creating a better environment for our future. So thanks again. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Ding that bell for notifications. Go concrete!
Beat asphalt!